Welcome to Truth Talkin Thursday. This is Jim. I'm Jane. And we are your hosts for this lovely little chat we're about to have.
Hot diggity.
And here's the thing. So last week we had talked about expectations. We had talked about expectations that males have on them and expectations that females have on them. My mind went to what is normal. What is normal? And honestly, for me, I don't think there is an actual description of normal, because it sure as shooting ain't me. But I think that if we trouble ourselves, and I'm going to use that word because I think it can cause trouble in your mind. If we trouble ourselves to be what we have decided and perceived is normal, we're never going to be relaxed. We're never going to be settled in our lives or accept our lives as is. What's your take on that? Because I know you got one.
Oh, I always have a take on everything. That's one of my downfalls.
That's a good thing. That's not a bad thing.
There's always been the age-old questions: what's normal? I mean, where do norms come from? You know, to begin with. I mean, somebody way back when thought it might be a good idea if so and so did this, and that became a normal. And if you didn't kind of live up to the norm, then there was a punishment of some kind. You know, either hung you or they cut your head off, or something.
So expectations have been around since
long,
the beginning of time.
Sure,
Okay,
and especially with the classes. I mean, there's still an age-old sort of class norm. It's a distinction between levels of existence in India, as far as I know, and if you were born into a certain caste, you didn't really try and get above that caste. I mean, the expectation was that you would stay there and you would do whatever you need to do to exist in that place. And this caste here is for people who have more, perhaps,
yes.
and so on and so on. So that becomes a norm. I mean, when I was at school, I studied what's abnormal. I mean, it's really just the other side of the argument, isn't it? Really, what's abnormal? I don't know that there's much abnormal as long as you're not hurting anybody.
Yeah. But that can be argued so many ways as well.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where some of the confusion comes from.
But there are some norms that make sense. I mean, there are some normal behaviors and expectations that make sense. One of the things that you and I had talked about before we sat down here is what are the norms around how people present themselves, and because we tend to judge people by how they present themselves, what they wear, how they wear it, communication styles. I mean, all those other kind of things. Some people would say, well, that's normal, and other people would say, well, that's not normal. So the problems are, should we spend a lot of time trying to change other people's norms to match ours?
You know what I think the thing is for me? I think that your life is your normal. And I think that by not accepting that, and by always pushing yourself or expecting yourself, demanding of yourself to be something that you're not, or to wish for something that is not your reality, is counterproductive. And I don't think it does anything to promote peace and a healthy lifestyle for yourself. And I think that everything starts with thinking for yourself. And I think that's where your normal is. Think for yourself, acknowledge your reality, but if there's something you want to change it. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. It's not going to happen. So the bottom line is, if you don't like your life, then reach for the life that you want. Who's to say your life isn't normal?
Yeah, and everybody else is messed up.
Exactly. Absolutely. That's the way I prefer to look at it.
And I kind of think that, is it normal to not have any norms? I mean, do healthy people not have any norms that they are either forced to live by or whatever? But is it normal to not have any normals in your life?
I think that it's important to have expectations and normals in your life.
Why?
But because I think it holds you to a standard, an acceptable standard.
The whole thing for me is about do I force myself to live by the expectations that the community or society places upon me? There are some of them that are helpful and useful and necessary. Some of them aren't. The tough job is to determine, for me anyway, it's always been a tough job, is to determine which is which.
I agree. I couldn't agree with you more, and I think that's where it comes from, thinking for yourself.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to expectations, because I'm male, pretty well anyway. Most of me.
Last I checked.
Most of me was when I got up this morning.
The goods.
That's right. Anyway, so I just, there are expectations that society places upon me as a male that I choose to live by because I think it's respectful, and I think it's dignified, and I think it's necessary, and I think it's all of those kinds of things. And that's really important to me, for me to be seen as somebody who lives in those with those characteristics in mind.
But Jim, not once did you say, as you just spoke that, not once did you say, because that's what's expected of me. You said, because I think this, because I think this. Mm-hmm. That to me is what makes the difference.
Yes, I agree. And that comes about in people because of the messages that they hear and they see around them. So if, as a society, as we had chatted earlier about, if a society is putting out improper messages, if they're they're not putting any messages at all about some things that are important and stuff, then the people that need to hear those things don't get to hear them. And so now they're left to their own devices, and if they happen to be around somebody who doesn't care about those sort of things, the likelihood is they're going to follow in those steps. They've got nothing to challenge their belief systems with.
I think it's way more generalized than that. I don't think it's a male-female thing. I think in general, we each have to be aware of who we are, what we're doing, and as you said, what messages we are giving out. Mm-hmm. In all ways, right?
But you've got to. My part of my point is we have to, as learning, growing entities in the world, we have to be, and this happens usually when there's little kids involved. We have to be subjected to norms, expectations, messages that are healthy for everyone.
I don't think it could get any clearer or simpler than that. I think if we've had this conversation before, and we've mentioned the golden rule. If everybody would follow to behave towards others as you wish to be treated, as you wish others to behave towards you, if everybody kept that in mind, the world would be a great place. And those things all start with your own thought process, as you said. What's been put in there and programmed in there, and you've thought about and makes sense to you. Mm-hmm. Do that.
Exactly. So what we need to do, the parting message, the parting point for me is, we need to be careful in terms of the messages that we put out for other people to pick up or to witness or to hear. That's what we need to be doing. We need to be putting out clear messages about what we hope will happen and how we're going to treat other people and all that sort of stuff. We need to verbalize them, or we need to at least we need to be careful in terms of how we present ourselves. I'll just leave it with that to other people.
I love that. I love that expression, and I think for me, my message is that it starts with ourselves. Think for yourself. Yep. Think about what you're doing. Think about what you're doing. Think about what you're saying. Take responsibility. Own it. Own your thoughts. That would be my message.
Perfect.
We rock!
We do. Just listen to us and we'll sort it all out for you.
We will solve all of your problems. Straight up. Just
Not a problem.
Done.
Not a problem.
Wow. Anyway, guys, this was fun. I enjoyed it again. So have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for stopping by.